Hi everyone. Once you have a RedTamarin SDK installed, you will want to write your first program. Even if you already know ActionScript 3, even if you already know Flash and R, when it comes to write command line tools with ActionScript 3 and the RedTamarin API, things are a little bit different. That's why redbean exists. This tool is here to simplify many repetitive tasks and complicated tasks. First, let's open Flash Builder and set up redbean. The Flash Builder version does not matter. It could be 4.5, 4.6, 4.7, whatever. Maybe a 4.8. Anyone at Adobe want to do that? You will start a normal ActionScript 3 project. Again, whether it's web or desktop, the version of the SDK doesn't matter, because in fact we're not gonna use it. Okay, that's the default. And the default template. So the first thing you're gonna do is go into your project properties, select the builders, and here you're gonna create a new builder. We want a program, and let's name it redbean. Later on, if you have numerous projects, the name have to be different. So, you know, if it's for demo 1, you could just name it demo 1 or whatever. But for now, we call it redbean. From here, we're gonna take the environment variables. So it's envar. And to select the environment variable, colon, and we're gonna use redtamarin underscore SDK. Oops, sorry for that. You will notice you have an error here because it's not enough. It's looking for a file. So in our RedTamarin SDK, we know we're inside the bin folder, and we have a redbean.exe, and there is no more errors. He found it. For the working directory, we'll just use the root of our project, and we don't need to use any argument so far. You just apply, validate, and you set up. Oh, I forgot one thing. Basically, your builder is something that's gonna run each time you build a project. So that's the default one, but gonna use the R of Flex SDK. And basically, we only want to use redbean, so we're gonna remove this one. And it warns you it could have some side effects, and we don't care about it. So yeah, we disable it. Okay. So now, you can still see you have the dependencies here on the RSDK. And we don't want that because the SWC provided here, it's what gonna provide the syntax completion for your editor. And we want to use syntax completion, but only for what we have in RedTamarin. So we'll go in the RedTamarin SDK, and in the lib SWC we have our own SWC. The RedTamarin SWC has all the API you can access from RedTamarin, And redbean is the API for the redbean tool. We need to go into our project. Let's put that in a lib-swc folder. And we'll simply gonna copy those swc there. Now you need to go into your project properties again. And this time you select the action script build path. That's what you get by default. And you're gonna remove it. Now you're gonna add a swc folder, and we're just gonna use the folder we just created, lib-swc, so we can have reference to RedTamarin and redbean. Now, referenced libraries, we have access to the API. So for example, if I was to write code, I could say, okay, I want C, I don't know, uni standard lib, and I have different constant and function I can access. And basically this is the RedTamarin API. It's a fat swc. When the doc is complete, you have access to all the doc. Well, so far, yeah, I need a bit more work on that. But let's remove this. So basically now we are ready to write our first program. And we're gonna go with a basic hello world. Okay, so hello world. I just want to display hello world. Sorry, not the same shortcut that I'm used to. And I save. Okay, so now the goal is, how do I take this action script code and use the RedTamarin runtime, red shell, to display it and to interpret it, to understand it? Because I could run this code with the Flash player, with R, but it's not the same API that I have in RedTamarin. So to work with RedTamarin, it's important that I run only code that RedTamarin can understand. So before going any further, let's talk about roles. Inside Flash Builder, you have two basic roles. You have to declare all your code inside a package, and each ActionScript file should contain only one public definition. If you have more than one public definition, or if you have many classes defined in one file, or if you use numerous package, you will get warning and errors. RedTamarin doesn't have those rules because we're operating at a lower level. You can write code directly outside any package, like we did here with the trace. And you can have many public definition per files, or any definition per files. Or in fact, you could directly write code not really considered as a definition because it's not inside a package. So here I could write a function and I could reuse this function later. It's not part of a package. It's kind of a gray area that is called the it's not even the anonymous package, but I will go into those details later. So now we have this code and we want to run it with a red shell. For that, we're gonna use redbean, and redbean to run need a build file. So at the root of a project, we're gonna create a text file that we're gonna name build.is3. You could name it whatever you want. So the little fast window you've seen there is because I did some modification on my system to be able to run file as a shebang program, and that's why I got this fast window. But if you open with a text editor, you can edit it as a normal file. So what do you do in a build file that's gonna run with redbean? First, to be able to use the redbean API, you need to import redbean. And a little detail about the red shell is the red shell can run many type of files. You can run an ICE file, an uncompiled ActionScript file. You can run ABC file, ActionScript bytecode, which is directly the ActionScript file compiled to bytecode. And you can run Swift file. The Swift file is like a chain of ABC file put together with the last ABC file that have an executable bit. So Red Shell can run all of that. But the simplest way to run something is to just run the ActionScript file, not even bother to compile it. So to run things with the shell, there is a simple command called shell. And we know we're into the SRC folder and the file name is demo1.is. Well, that's a basic build file. So now let's try it. And build the project. So the command is build project. And here we are. We have a redbean banner. You run the build.is3. Shell run source/demo.is. It displays hello world. And that's the time it took to do all that. So if you used to work with Flash and Air, as long as you don't use anything graphics like sprite, display list, movie clip, etc. In general, when you test prototype code, you're gonna write ActionScript 3 code, compile it in a Swift, and when you run it, you mainly gonna see the output in your console, nothing else. That's about the same thing, but instead of going through the MXMLC compiler to get a Swift file and run it through the Flash Player runtime or the Air runtime, in local use the Air launcher, ADL. Here we just use redbean to take a script to send command. This time it was the shell command, so you can run your script through Red Shell. So you know what? It's nice and all, but what I would really want is to only see my script output without those redbean comments, because right now I don't really care of the bracket run bracket build.is3. I just want to see the raw output of what my script is doing. So for that, we're gonna configure redbean. And to configure redbean, you have different ways, two principal ways and maybe a third one. So let's go with adding a configuration file for redbean. At the root of your project, you create a new text file again, and you're gonna name it redbean.cfg, redbean config file. Okay. And there, you're gonna be able to declare variable to configure redbean. Here, I want what I call the quiet mode, and I want it set to true. So I don't have all those output from the different command. I just want to see the raw script. Okay. So let's try to run the build again and see what happened. So build project. Hey, that's it. Just display hello world, nothing else. If you see the details, you can see it you running from the RedTamarin SDK path. Okay, that's all good. That's one way to do it. And when you don't need it anymore, you can just command it out. And if you run the build again, you will see that it's back to its normal behavior, which is a little bit verbose, not too much. So another way to configure redbean is by passing command line argument. So to pass command line argument, we're gonna go in our project properties, select the builder, redbean, edit it, and in the argument window here, double dash, because it talked to red shell, and we pass a user argument, space, dash Q. Q is for the quiet mode, when you pass it on the command line. All this is documented in the HTML documentation on the website, etc. So there is many more arguments. And in fact, if you want to see all of them, you could just put H for help, run your build again, and see here the H argument just display the usage and the help, not gonna execute anything else. It's like cancelling any other argument. It's not gonna run your build file. Okay, so we're testing quiet mode. So we're going again in the builder, we edit, we don't want H, we want Q. We apply, validate again. From there, not gonna take into account this config file. We're just gonna build again, and the same result. Voila, that's the two way to do it, either from a config file or ever from a command line parameter. So we're gonna cancel it. So you just remove the argument, you validate again, and if we run the build, yeah, it's back to what I call normal. So there is also a third way to do that. The redbean.cfg file, you can put it in your current working directory here, but you could also have one in your home directory. And the home directory gonna act as a global configuration. if I had many projects like demo 1, demo 2, demo 3, and I had only a redbean.cfg in my home folder, it will be taken into account for all my compilations. So be careful with that. If you configure a redbean.cfg in your home directory, you could have a side effect later on if you don't remember it, and you'll say, oh, why it doesn't work or something like that. Yeah, check your home directory first. So running script is fine, but what we really want is compiling those scripts to build programs. That is an important difference. When you run a script, uncompiled action script, through the red shell, you basically evaluating it with an internal eval engine that you have in RedTamarin. And this eval engine is almost complete, I will say. I didn't do it. I mean, it's the Adobe team who put it in Tamarin, and I'm just reusing the feature. But this feature is a little bit particular. It has to do with the way variable communicate with the scope of execution of a script. So I will say, if you write a program, if you just do some testing, just having an action script file, not compiling it and running it through the shell is fine for maybe a few hundred lines. As soon as you're gonna have something more complicated, when you're gonna have package and classes and really a complex program, you're gonna want to avoid just evaluating your script. You're gonna want really to compile it, because there is this little bug that can happen sometimes. It's when you evaluate a script with the red shell, which basically means if you pass an action script to the command line, it's automatically evaluated by the red shell. If you want to load a script and evaluate it yourself, it's in the class runtime, and you have this an eval function, evaluate action script resource code at runtime. You have also another one called return eval. It's evaluating the source code, but it's returning into a string what you have evaluated instead of directly displaying it in the standard output. So again, we're not doing that yet. So this difference is when you're evaluating a script, you can sometimes the script can be confused about what is available or not. So for example, even if you're sure you have compiled in your code a class that is in a particular package and you try to instantiate it, it's gonna tell you, I don't find this class definition, I cannot instantiate it, and you end up with an error. Sometimes it's happening, sometimes it's not happening. It depends on what is declared as a native class, not native class. It's kind of complicated to really find out where the real problem is. The thing is, as soon as you compile your script into an ABC file, you don't have this problem anymore. It just runs fine. It finds the class, the definition, whatever, it just works. So as soon as you're going to write something more complicated than few hundred lines, you're going to need to compile your script. And that's what we're going to do there. You're already running with a shell. So before the shell, to compile, we're going to use a function named compile. Okay. And we're going to compile our source code. And this basically going to generate an ActionScript bytecode file. And that's the one we want to run in the shell. You compile an ICE file, and you run an ABC file. Okay, we save this build and let's run the build, see what happens. Okay, so it's almost the same thing, a bit of difference. You can see that it generated an ABC file here. If you go into your project, in the source, you can see the file that have been generated from your action script file. So it ran the build, it ran a compile, and it ran the shell with ABC, and you can see the result of the ABC file. Okay, but it's basically the same as before. It just, instead of running an uncompiled script, you're running compiled code. It works, it's all nice and dandy, but no, what we really need is to see the details of what is really going on. And if you're new with RedTamarin, it's something that can help you. So again, it's about configuring redbean, and this time, instead of having less details, we're gonna want to have more details. So you have a quiet mode for less detail, and for more details, guess what? You have a verbose mode. Okay? And verbose mode is basically gonna run the same things, but for each action, it's gonna give you a little bit more details of what's going on under the hood. So let's run the build again. Yeah, a bit more things. So first thing is, from redbean, you're gonna be able to see the full path of a redbean executable. This is for the case where you could have more than one redbean on the system or more than one SDK. You could see also the argument passed to this redbean. Here we have none. And you can see the current working directory from which directory it operates. You can see also the details of the config. So we find again our RedTamarin SDK, the different options, and you see verbose mode is true. If we have ran the same things, but instead configuring the command line instead of configuring with redbean.cfg, you will see a -v argument here and same verbose mode true. So what does it do? It runs the build again, it compile, but when it compile now, you have the result of, it used ActionScript compiler 1, and this is basically a Java command on your system. And you have all the options, all the import, and the path you're compiling. So for example, if for some reason you didn't want to use redbean, you wanted to do it all manually, you could take this line, copy paste it on a command prompt, and it will just work. Then the shell, it runs demo1.abc, and again you have a full path used to run these files. So in our RedTamarin SDK, we have runtimes. Red shell is the most important one, and we use the red shell for Windows in 32-bit, and redshell.exe is the release version to run this ABC file, and that's the result. That's it. Let's move on. So now here's another problem. What if we took some time and effort to write a program, but we need to distribute it to someone who just wants to run program without knowing about the details? You know, it's like if you do a cool thing in a Swift file or an R file, you're not gonna send the source code to someone and explain them how to compile it so they can see the same result. You're gonna publish a Swift, put it online, and just visit this web page and watch it. Same for an R application, install the application and just use it. So we have the same problem with RedTamarin program. We need to be able to distribute them, but without having to explain how to install a SDK, how to configure a command line and stuff like that. You just have to be able to run with very basic minimal instruction. And for that, we have what we call projectors. Projectors, the name, it's basically a functionality that comes from the old days and in the Flash player standalone. It was there, so you can run a Swift with a Flash player standalone, and in the menu you could save as a projector, which is basically was taking the Flash player runtime, merging it with a Swift file, and you were obtaining a single executable that you can put on a zip drive or USB, etc. After that came R, so you can build desktop application with R, and R got more features, so you can run it from USB drive or from CD-ROM, etc. And the projector kind of lost its appeal. Adobe removed it at one moment and then put it back. But the way it works is inside the ActionScript virtual machine 2, inside the Tamarin code, you have a code that gonna auto detect if you have an embedded file and run it. So now you just need to follow the rules to embed this file into the red shell, and you obtain an independent executable that you can distribute without the need to configure red shell or whatever else. This code is found into the ActionScript compiler, and I just reuse this code and make it into redbean, so it's just more convenient to produce projector file. So yeah, that's it. A projector is an independent executable. It basically merges the red shell and your bytecode files into one single file. And the projector name comes from the Flash days. But basically a projector is just that, an executable. So let's edit our build file again. I'm gonna comment this out. And in my build file, so I don't want to run the shell. I want to produce a projector, so the command again is projector. I mean, it's a clean API, right? So in your projector, you have different parameters, and again, I don't have syntax completion there yet. I'm working on that. You could basically put the build.is in your SRC folder, use the syntax completion from redbean.swc, then copy back this file into your build.actionscript3. But let's trust me on the parameter. So the first parameter you want is the name of your executable without any extension. So on Macintosh and Linux system, it's gonna produce demo1 without any extension. And on Windows system, it's gonna produce a .exe. And this is done automatically for you. The second parameter is, do we merge into a projector a red shell debug or not? So false, we don't want the debug version, we want the release version. Now, you have a third parameter is about telling which kind of projector you want to produce. So you could say, oh, I want to produce Macintosh 64-bit. 64-bit. That's a target, okay? But in general, the simplest thing to do is just to pass null. So the projector function gonna auto detect which on which system you are, which bits you are, and produce a projector automatically for your system. So here we're on a Windows 64-bit, Windows 7, but we're running redbean as a 32-bit, so it will produce a projector for Windows in 32-bit. And in this projector we need to embed files. And here's the trick. In a projector you can embed only one file, but the projector function is made in a way you can pass an array of all the files you need to embed, and if there is more than one, the projector will do some magic in the background, merge all those different files into one, and then embed the one file into the executable. So the details about that is more than one files, we're talking only about ActionScript bytecode files. So here's how it works. Let's say you work on a library and you're gonna have lib1.abc, maybe another library lib2.abc. And then you have your demo1 program that you want to build that have dependencies on those ABC files. So if you have a dependency on lib1, you will declare it here. And basically, the projector will take the lib1.abc and the demo1.abc file. It's gonna merge them into a Swift file, and it's gonna inject this Swift file into an executable to make a projector. So here we have no dependency, we have only one compiled file, it's demo1.abc. And in fact, those bit file is not only limited to redbean API. You can also use everything else available in RedTamarin, because redbean is built with RedTamarin, so you have also access to the full RedTamarin API. And here I import the file system because before building it, I don't want to build my executable from source/demo1.abc. I want to have the file move into my root folder. So I'm gonna move source demo1.abc into demo1.abc, and that way I can simply pass demo1.abc, because here the projector expects the path to your ABC file. I'll make a little mistake here. Voilà. So compile from src demo1.is, gonna generate src/demo1.abc. Then we take this file, we move it to the root folder, and from the root folder we're gonna build our projector. Okay, let's save that. And again, let's build our project. So yeah, we produce an ABC file. The projectors tell us it's building demo1.exe for Windows 32-bit. And we have produced a file, demo1.exe, of 1.42 megabytes. And if we go into our project, in the root, you can see the file here. And let's run it. So we're gonna open a command prompt. We're gonna move to our root folder. and it's called demo1. So it's not ABC, it's exe, and voila, it's a command line tool. We just run it and it displays hello world. That's our independent program running on the command line. So you could put it in a zip file, send it through email or on a USB drive, whatever. Someone else will open it, run it on the command line, and it will just work without any whatsoever dependencies. Okay, so we have that. So I'm gonna do some repetitive tasks. Sorry for that, even if I try to keep the video short. But it's really to make you understand how you can use redbean, the build tool. So let's build our project again. See, you know, we just want to build it again. So again, project, build project. Oh, here we have an error. Cannot move source/demo1.abc over already existing demo1.abc. Okay, we try to move a file and it just tells us you cannot move it because it's already existing. Okay, well, let's modify our build, and before doing the move, we're gonna simply remove the file. So again, this is not the RedTamarin API. Sorry, this is not the redbean API, it's the RedTamarin API. You can use everything that you have in file system. So it's create directory, copy directory, remove file, remove directory, all is there. So I modify my build and I just run it again. Build project, and it works. So it's look fine, but now I have a little doubt. I know I'm moving and removing this ABC file, and each time I'm generating an executable file, but I'm not sure this executable file is really overwritten. So let's modify my script to be sure that the new source code really is updated in the final projector. So let's add a simple function. Oh, by the way, I don't need that. I don't need this import because I don't use it. So let's just display the username of this operating system. And to do that, it's a simple C function called getLogin. It's from the Uni standard library. Voilà, so syntax completion, doing automatically the import. And this is a test machine, a test virtual machine with Windows 7, and the username is test. Let's run our build again. All went fine. Let's run our executable again and see if it's indeed updated. And yes, we have username equal test. So our build is working. But I got something that now bothers me a little bit. You see, each time I build, I come back to Flash Builder, and then I go to the command prompt to test my executable file. In this context, I don't really need Flash Builder to do the build. I could keep doing it all in the command prompt. So what I want now is to be able to run redbean in the command prompt, so I don't have to go back to Flash Builder all the time. And in fact, I could just keep Flash Builder for what it is. Oh, sorry. Sorry for the guys who build Flash Builder just as a code editor. But it's also to show you we could use Flash Builder or any other code editor, Sublime Text, Flash Develop, Notepad, whatever. As long as you have redbean working with it, you will be able to compile and run your script and test them. So the functionality inside Flash Builder, being able to build Swift file, air file, etc., is really, it doesn't matter to us. We really use it as a simple editor to do syntax completion from SWC files. So now if I want to run redbean from this folder, even if I have declared RedTamarin _ SDK in my environment variables, I didn't really tell the system where to find redbean.exe. I told the builder in here, and we can go again. I told him, take the environment variable, because I know there is a path here, then go into the bin folder, then execute redbean.exe. But this, I could not really do it on the command line. So now I want to be able to just type redbean something on my command line and run redbean from the RedTamarin SDK directory. So on Windows, it's not ideal. And again, there is about two ways to do that. First, you can create a shortcut. That's the Windows way of doing things. So we go in our RedTamarin SDK. We select the bin folder, then the redbean.executable, right click, create shortcut. And we have a shortcut. So now we take this shortcut and we move it to the root of our project. And while I'm at it, I'm gonna clean up this ABC file and executable file, delete them. And in fact, I don't want to use any redbean config, so I'm gonna delete that too. Oh yeah, let's just rename it to be sure it's not red. So if we go into our command prompt and we use the dir command to list files, you can see our shortcut here. It ends up with an LNK link. It's a bit too long, it got space, so oops, no, I didn't want to do that. It's enter on Mac to rename, but F2 on Windows to rename. So just gonna rename it to redbean. And if I list again my files, redbean.lnk. Okay. So to understand the following, you need to understand how Windows understand executable file. Again, under Windows rules, it's all about rules. I mean, if in Flash Builder you have some rules, in Windows you have other rules, in a bash prompt you have yet other rules, Mac OS X is another set of rules, etc. So it's all about knowing what you can do and how you can do it. So under Windows, in my system, in particular Windows 7, you have an environment variable path ext that basically define what can be considered as an executable. So let's check this. Right click computer properties, advanced system settings, environment variable. Here in system variable, you have path. It's where it's gonna look for executable file, and pathExt is basically telling you every extension that are considered executable. .com, .exe, .bat, etc. You can edit it and add to it. In our case, because we use a shortcut, what does the link file, the LNK? The LNK simply point back to an executable file with the extension .exe. And that's why if we were executing it, the ln key itself doesn't execute, it just transfer the command to the executable file, and then if it's an executable extension, it executes. So technically I could run redbean.lnkey on the command line and it should act as redbean.exe. So let's try it. Redbean.lnkey. Hey, I got my redbean banner, so it should work, but it's telling me, it doesn't find my build.action script tree. And I know the file is there, I mean, it's just right there. Why it doesn't find it? Well, it's our shortcut works under Windows. We created the shortcut from this executable here, and by default, it created a working directory based on this path. So if we edit our shortcut in properties, shortcut, you can see it's an application, it's the full path of the application, start in C drive, SDK, RedTamarin bin. And of course, in the bin folder, we don't have a build.actionscript3 files. We're not gonna be able to find our local build files. So we need to change the working directory to where we are. So where we are in demo 1. Let's take a subfolder property. That's the full path of where we are. And let's change the start in. Let's apply. Okay, let's try again. And let's see if it's working. Oh, it kind of worked, but again, I have an error. And it's a C error, inot block, 0, no error. That's a kind of weird error, but if we follow the stack trace, which thankfully to Redbean we have, I basically try to remove a file, I check if it's a directory, then I get this file mode to know if I have the access right to remove it, and then I got the error. And okay, that's basically a bug in my file system class. And if you interpret it, it's basically, it tried to remove a file that does not exist. So let's just change our build script to check if the file exists before removing it. And you're gonna test it if file system exists. Yeah, well, I'm gonna type it. If my file demo1.abc exists, then remove it. And if it doesn't exist, just do nothing. That's the power of your build script. You can really do any ActionScript3 logic you want. So Now that we have that, let's run the build again and see if we fixed the problem. Yes, we did. That's nice. Let's be sure. I mean, let's run it again. Let's run it again. Okay. We fixed the problem. So, again, mix up with different prompt. So that's about it. That's one way to create a shortcut for the redbean to run it on the command line in the root of your project. You could when I did test before, you could also, you don't really need a command prompt, you can also just double click it and it will run. But the first time I ran it, I got a little nagging message about security. Sorry, I cannot find it again, but I have it in screenshot. It will be in the text tutorial. But basically, I have a nagging screen about always ask before opening this file. And you simply uncheck it, and then you can run it as much as you want. Okay. That's it for the shortcut file. So let's clean up again all those stuff, and let's delete also the shortcut. Now, if you have a system, a Windows system, I highly advise you to install something called Cygwin. Cygwin, it's really what you want under Windows if you work a lot with a command line. So Cygwin has its own prompt that is basically a bash prompt. Okay. It got its own logic. So if I wanted to go to my root folder, and I will just do that, change directory to this, it does not understand that. What Cygwin understands is Cig drive, drive C. I'm under the work folder, test demo, and demo 1 for my project. This it does understand. So there, if I had a shortcut, an LNK file, I don't think it will work. But under a bash prompt, you have a much simpler way to create a shortcut. It's called a symbolic link. And the command to create one is ln-s, the path to your executable. So we know we install the RedTamarin SDK into the C drive, SDK, RedTamarin. The file we want is inside the bin folder, and it's called redbean.exe. And we're gonna name it redbean.exe too. If you list the files again, you can see that your link have been created, and the only advantage of doing that is for the file size. Okay. Technically, you can also have a script, just create redbean here, and you could automate the creation of a symlink, etc. So you won't Cygwin because of things like symbolic link, but also because you see, I just create my link, and technically I can run it right away and it should just work. So again, I need my bash prompt syntax. So to execute a program is /, the name of my program. I name it redbean.exe. So I run redbean.exe. Let's run it. And it's run right away. If I wanted to display the help, it will walk to and on and on and on. So that's the second way to do it. Okay. You could also think that all that is too complicated. Like really, what is all this bullshit with shortcuts, Sigwin, Symlink, etc. So okay, I understand that. Maybe you want the third solution. So let's remove this and all those files. Bad shortcut again. Okay, so the simpler solution, the third option, is you copy redbean and you paste it. Now you can either use a Windows command prompt it just works, and from a Sigwin prompt it will work the same. The only little problem with that is you have copied the whole file. So here you see you have copied about 5 megabytes of file. So it's not that big now with big hard drive, etc. But for some people, you know, it's like, okay, here we're lucky, we only have to copy 5 megabytes. But what if we have to copy 50 megabytes or 500 megabytes? I mean, you don't want to copy the whole SDK for all your project. You want to keep the SDK in one place, the tool in one place, and link to it. But you can also just copy the file. It's simpler and straightforward. That's about it. From that point, you know the basic of using redbean. You know how to configure it. You know how to write build scripts. This demo uses Flash Builder, but you could have well used any other code editor like Flash Develop, IntelliJ, Sublime Text, and just the command line. Please take also the time to read the documentation. In the SDK, in Tools, ABC, redbean, you have a README text, which I'm going to open with Notepad 2. And it's basically a text summary of a lot of things I explained on the video and on the website. It can be used as a reference if you need it. It's a README text. Wow. You can also look at the documentation, the HTML documentation that you have here in local. I could open it here. Again, you know, if you're not sure about parameters, what you can do, etc., you really have all the detail here. I really spend a lot of time to go in many details, you know, so you just know what's going on with the tool. It's a new tool. I ask you to use it if you want to work with RedTamarin, and the basic of things is to give a good documentation so you're not lost with the tool. You have also a redbean page, web page. This is only the prototype, but here you will have a full usage description, etc. And you have the doc embedded in the page. I'm finishing that up. And yeah, you can see there is some video tutorial coming every few days. I will make another tutorial for things more in depth, like how to use include files, how to use external libraries, why do you still need Swift files. I already explained it a little bit, but I will go in more details about it. and other less obvious stuff. If you find bugs or think some utilities are missing in RedBean, don't hesitate to submit a ticket on the issue tracker on Google Code. And that's it, folk. Have fun with RedTamarin and see you later.